In 1987, a man named Kenneth Parks got in his car at 1 in the morning, drove 14 miles, walked into his in-laws' house, and killed 2 people. When the police found him, he was covered in blood and confused. He drove himself straight to the nearest station and said, "I think I've just killed 2 people." Kenneth Parks was never convicted because he was asleep the entire time. Every part of that night, the driving, the walking, the violence, happened while his conscious mind was completely offline. Something else was in control. That case sounds like an extreme outlier, but it points to something true for every single one of us, every single night. When you close your eyes, you don't just rest, you disappear, and something continues operating in your place. By the end of this video, you'll understand what actually happens to your mind during those missing hours, and why the person who wakes up tomorrow morning is not, in a very real sense, the same person who went to bed tonight. Here's the part that should bother you more than it does. You will spend close to 26 years of your life unconscious, vulnerable, unable to see, unable to hear properly, unable to defend yourself. In the wild, that kind of exposure gets you killed. A deer that sleeps too deeply becomes dinner. Evolution is ruthless about cutting anything that doesn't earn its cost. So if sleep were only about resting the body, evolution should have found a cheaper, safer way to do it a long time ago. It didn't, which means whatever sleep is actually doing, it's important enough that your species was willing to gamble its own safety for it every night for millions of years. Sleep isn't one state, it's a rotation between 2 very different ones. In non-REM sleep, your body does what you'd expect. Heart rate drops, temperature falls, tissue repairs itself. This is the part that looks like rest. Then, several times a night, you shift into REM sleep, and this is where it gets strange. Your eyes dart rapidly beneath closed lids. Your brain activity spikes to levels close to full waking alertness, and at the exact same time, your brain sends a signal down your spinal cord that paralyzes nearly every voluntary muscle in your body. Your mind is racing. Your body is frozen. That mismatch is not a flaw. It's a safety lock, so that whatever you're experiencing in there doesn't turn into something you physically act out. Occasionally, that lock glitches. You wake up a few seconds before your body catches up, and you're fully conscious, unable to move. People have called it a demon on the chest, an old hag, a shadow at the foot of the bed. It's not supernatural. It's just your brain and your body, briefly out of sync. Here's what all that intense brain activity is actually for. Every experience you have while awake creates new connections between neurons. Every face, every notification, every stray thought. If your brain kept all of it, it would be buried in noise within days. So while you sleep, your brain runs through the day's connections and makes decisions. It keeps what mattered. It quietly deletes what didn't. In 2013, researchers discovered that brain cells physically shrink during deep sleep by as much as 60%, opening channels for fluid to flush through and wash out metabolic waste, including proteins linked to Alzheimer's disease. Your brain isn't shutting off at night. It's doing maintenance work that's simply impossible to do while you're awake and using it. Now here's a question almost nobody asks. What about the sleep where you don't dream at all? Not the vivid REM stage, the deep, dreamless stretch where there's no story, no images, nothing to report when you wake up. If dreaming is your mind processing the day, what is happening during the hours where there's no mind there to process anything? As far as your subjective experience is concerned, those hours simply don't exist. No time passes. No thoughts occur. There's no you observing anything at all. And yet your brain, during exactly those hours, is doing some of its most critical repair work. The part of the night with the least conscious experience is doing the most unconscious labor, which means the version of you that feels continuous, day after day, is quietly resting on a foundation of total blackout hours you will never remember and never experience. You are, in a very literal sense, built on gaps. For most of human history, people didn't sleep the way you do. Historian Roger Kirch spent 16 years going through medieval diaries, court records, and medical texts, and found hundreds of references to something historians now call segmented sleep. People went to bed shortly after sunset, woke up naturally around midnight, stayed awake for an hour or two, praying, talking, reading by candlelight, then fell back asleep until morning. That means if you've ever woken up at 2 or 3 a.m. and panicked, assuming something is wrong with you, you may actually be experiencing something closer to your species' default setting than the 8-hour block we've been told is normal. Electric light and factory schedules rewrote that pattern in barely over a century. Your nervous system is still catching up. So on one end, you have Kenneth Parks, a sleeping brain capable of driving a car and taking a life, with zero conscious awareness attached to any of it. On the other end, you have something much gentler happening in your own skull tonight. Neuroscientist Matthew Walker found that during REM sleep, your brain actually stops producing norepinephrine, the chemical tied to stress and anxiety. That means painful memories from your day get reprocessed in a chemically calm state. You still remember what happened. You just stop carrying the same weight from it. That's the full range of what happens when you lose consciousness each night. At one extreme, a body capable of catastrophic harm with nobody home to stop it. At the other, a quiet, chemical kindness your brain performs on you without asking permission. Same mechanism, completely different outcomes, depending only on what your brain decides to do with the hours it has. So where do you actually go when you sleep? You don't go anywhere. You go inward into a process I'll call the nightly rewrite. Every night, your brain decides which memories to keep and which to erase, which emotional weight to lighten, which neural pathways deserve to survive another day. And it does all of this without your permission, without your awareness, and without your consent. The person who gets out of bed tomorrow morning will look like you, sound like you, and answer to your name. But they will be carrying a slightly different emotional load than the person who fell asleep tonight. Some memories softened, some connections quietly deleted, some fear turned down by a few degrees. You are not maintained while you sleep. You are rewritten. To put it together, sleep isn't rest. It's risk your body was willing to take for something more important. REM sleep runs your brain at near waking intensity while your body stays locked in place. The deep, dreamless hours you never remember are doing the heaviest repair work of the night. And the version of you that wakes up tomorrow has already been quietly edited while you were gone. If this changed the way you think about the hours you spend asleep, consider subscribing for more videos like this one and share your thoughts in the comments below. It genuinely helps this channel grow, and I read every one. In the next video, we're going to look at what happens on the rare nights your brain skips this process altogether, and why losing even one night of sleep can measurably change who you are the next day. See you there.